Chapter 186. Since I have never exposed all my power, I thought it was high time I revealed everything. Had I known you would be this shocked, I would have waited a bit longer to speak. Excuse me? Kishir's words barely registered with Yudhir, who was in a daze from the shock. It was only when Yudhir finally managed a weak response that Kishir chuckled softly. You look as if I have done something terrible to a child. Terrible? Absent-mindedly echoing Kishir's words, a spark of understanding flashed in Yudhir's mind. What are you implying? Despite your ill health, do you still have the energy to just? Good. It seems your eyes have regained their focus. That's more like Yudhir, Kishir, seemingly satisfied, narrowed his eyes as he responded nonchalantly. All right, the real problem isn't with me. The reason I'm bringing this up now is that there's one more thing we need to understand in order to move forward. Based on the achievements we made yesterday, and what would that be? The reason why the Emperor hasn't shown himself outside the Sun Palace for years. Speaking carelessly about the Emperor's health was always strictly forbidden, considering highly confidential. Yudhir began to wonder just how far Kishir intended to share with him today. As everyone knows, His Majesty has been in ill health for some time now. I have heard about his illness. Yes, indeed, but when we met him in the Sun Palace, did he truly seem so seriously ill that he couldn't possibly venture out anywhere? Yudhir recalled the Emperor Kelusa he'd met at the Sun Palace. The young emperor, resembling a sensitive scholar with glasses, didn't seem so severely unwell that he couldn't even attend a party within the palace, even though signs of illness were somewhat apparent. One peculiar thing Yudhir had noticed then was that the emperor seemed to carry out his work and rest in one place only, without letting even his attendants or servants into the same space. Invisible illness preventing him from going out. Curious dialogues Kishir had been dropping. Lost in thought, Yudhir met Kishir's gaze. I apologize if I'm jumping to conclusions, but are you suggesting that the vessel you mentioned is the reason? Correct. A soft compliment returned in a whisper. His Majesty's vessel is currently cracked. He's been trying to minimize movement to prevent the leakage of life force. But if he can't find a way to mend it, he will eventually weaken rapidly until he reaches his limit. It's similar to the situation I found myself in after the cracks started forming. Do you mean? Yes, we are hoping that the power of the Redstone might be the answer to restoring His Majesty's health. More accurately, I am. It was then that Yudhir started to understand the connection between the retrieval of the Redstone and the actions of the Emperor and Kishir thus far. So that's it. Kishir, who was in the same situation, improved after awakening the power of the Redstone. So they are hoping that by studying the retrieved stone, they might find a cure. They probably made the same decision in their past life too, although what followed must have been different from the present. While seeking a cure for the Emperor by retrieving the red stone, Kishir's vessel was instead significantly damaged. What might they have thought then? They presumably succeeded in separating the stone's power then as well, but Emperor Kelusa died quickly, and Kishir, after becoming extremely weak, was assassinated. Does that mean they failed to heal both the Emperor and Kishir with the power of the separated stone in their previous lives? Or maybe some problem arose in the Pearl Tower where the research was carried out. Lost in thought, Yudhir listened to Kishir's continuous words. It took quite a while to convince His Majesty, who had initially given up, and prepared to come here. After the vessel started to have serious issues, the time it takes to reach the point of no return varies from person to person. For me, it took about 5 years to reach my limit. However, it's likely His Majesty has a shorter amount of time. Cashier's voice echoed gravely. After the experiment ended yesterday, I sent a letter to His Majesty to finalize the 1 month period he had given. We will discuss the details later, but for now, consider it as if we have passed the test given by His Majesty. Had he done all of that while still bedridden due to his ill health? Catching Yudhir's questioning gaze, Kishir continued with a slight, troubled smile playing on his face. A promise is a promise, isn't it? Regardless of how sick I get, I must fulfill my duties before I rest. Compared to my reckless assistant, I at least know my health is precious, so don't look at me that way. I haven't said anything. Yudhir quickly averted his gaze. It will be good news for Yulman, who's outside. Yes, his idea played a crucial role in this matter. If his brilliant idea had been mishandled, we all could have been in serious trouble. In fact, since the time when Thais Yulman sent the midterm report about the experimental plan, I have been communicating with His Majesty. His Majesty has said that if the experiment was successful, he would let me take all the priority in future research related to the red stone. He affirmed his promise in the response he sent this morning. That's fortunate. Yes, Benny told me in the carriage that it would be waste to send the red stone to His Majesty without utilizing it. I honestly didn't expect such an outcome. At Kishir's words, Yudhir instinctively thought of Khana. He had managed to fulfill his promise to Kishir and enabled Khana to properly interact with the red stone again. However, she still hadn't woken up. A heaviness settled in his heart at the thought of her. I am worried about Khana. She hasn't woken up yet. From what Nathan told me, both the doctor and the priest said there were no major issues with her physical condition. I have heard that too, but if I had been more careful then... As Yudhir's voice trailed off, he couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. Even if you had been more careful, the outcome might not have been different. You did the best you could at the time. You were the one who stopped the power of the redstone from exploding. So, by that logic, wouldn't it be my responsibility for not properly protecting the members? When Khana Wan wakes up, the one she should resent is me, not you. Yudhir's head snapped up at this. I didn't mean to imply that it was your fault, Commander. I know. Kishir's response was soft, almost comforting. Don't worry too much. Let's wait another day. If she still doesn't wake up, I'll find a way to wake her up. Coming from anyone else, those words might have felt like an empty promise. But when spoken by Kishir, they oddly resonated like a powerful prophecy. Yudhir felt his heavy heart lighten slightly, realizing he had been more tense about this than he had thought. Thank you. You mentioned before that you couldn't understand how you were able to stop the power of the redstone. Yudhir recalled his conversation with Nathan last night and responded, yes. At that time, I saw a red light similar to the energy of the redstone leaking from the glove you were wearing. The two lights seemed somewhat connected. How did you feel about it? Connected? I'm not sure about that. Yudhir carefully recounted his memories from that moment, details he hadn't fully disclosed to Nathan Zuckerman. Given the urgent situation, I felt like I could somehow stop the stone from exploding. I reached out, and the next thing I knew, I had done it. It's really fortunate nothing bad happened. Yes. No, I mean you. Thinking that he meant it was fortunate for everyone, Yudhir was about to respond when Kishir gently but firmly corrected him. Expecting to be reprimanded for his recklessness, Yudhir fell silent as Kishir paused. After a few seconds of silence, Kishir's next words held a completely different meaning. But if it hadn't been you, everyone might have been hurt. Yudhir lifted his gaze that had unconsciously lowered to the floor. Kishir was smiling, his eyebrows slightly furrowed. You did well. I didn't expect you to compliment me. Taken aback, Yudhir stuttered a reply, causing Kishir to shake his head. While I would prefer my members not to engage in life-threatening risks, we can't always avoid it. If it hadn't been you, the situation would have gotten out of control. You did well, Kishir muttered. As Yudhir met his gaze, his heart pounded unsteadily. As Yudhir found himself at the loss for words, Kishir furrowed his brows a little more, reaching out to ruffle Yudhir's hair. Surprised, Yudhir blinked a few times, and Kishir's hand brushed past his ear, returning to his original position. What was that? Was there dust in his hair? As he stared blankly, Kishir glanced at his hand and grumbled. Don't let your guard down too much. Pardon? When someone who's usually alert shows an unexpected response, it seems I have developed a disease where I unknowingly want to touch more. The uneasy feeling faded quickly.